All right.
We're good?
Take it away.
All right. So my name's Adrian. We're here with Mitchell and Coach Kendall. Back here with the Scotscast. Coach Kendall, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. My name is Coach Kindell. I'm actually a special ed case manager here at McKay High School. I also co-teach geometry and English. So
English
again,
and
thank you guys
geometry.
for having me.
Okay.
Well, thank you for being here. We've got a few questions we'd like to ask you about kind of just your experience in the business world, if you don't mind. One of the first things we'd like to ask is, what did you want to be when you, were little?
Well, when I was growing up, I was really into the game of football. So obviously, I wanted to be in the NFL one day and play wide receiver. So I was hyper focused, almost to a fault, on the game of football. I wish I would have, spread my interest among other things, but that's what I wanted to be. But I also had an interest in business. In third grade, I remember at our elementary school in Flint, Michigan, which is where I grew up, we had a contest where every student was able to create their own business, and there was fake money given out. And I remember that really piqued my interest in creating things from scratch, and so that was fun.
So, when you were a kid and you had this dream about being an NFL, and you kind of hyper focused on that, a lot of things I noticed in high school is kids have to spread their time around with other things, and so figuring out if they want to be in business or something can be kind of really hard to do while you're in high school.
Right.
Do you have any other way to approach that, as
Well,
a teacher?
Yeah, I think it's really important for students to be well-rounded. Like I said, to a fault, I was only focused on football. I wish I would have spread my interest to music, to business, and to other things, because I think being well-rounded is super important, especially nowadays. So my advice to students is to try out different things that you may be even slightly interested in, because you never know which one of those things could become a business that you start or a career. So I like focusing on one thing and putting all your energy into that, but I don't think that's the best way to do things. I think it's important to be well-rounded. So
Speaking of that, there's a lot of talk about business nowadays, especially. But when you were in elementary, middle, and high school, I don't know, was there as much focus on going into entrepreneurship and business?
there was not. The internet was just budding as I was growing up. I remember in '96 was when I first started going to the library and using the internet. So I think with the internet widespread and everyone having phones and access, starting businesses, creating businesses, and growing them is a lot more in the forefront than it was when I was in high school. It was almost like, you had to have a bunch of money to start your own business and to get customers and to do marketing, because it was very expensive. But now, with the way things are being that the way they are, it's a lot more popular to start your own business because you don't need as many resources. So,
Yeah, and that's kind of like a niche and you see in movies a lot, like the Apple, that Steve Jobs
Exactly.
movie. You see that they start in like a garage or something. That's how the businesses start. But they eventually become into these huge icons.
Did you, while you started to go into business, did you ever think that you were going to reach kind of that peak? That level of buku bucks rich?
Well, I'm still on my journey, to be completely honest with you guys. I've had some successes and failures along the way, but I'm still working towards having, the Apple and having that big flagship company with an office and a ton of employees. So it's a journey that never really ends. I'm still on my journey, and even if I was to reach that point, being that it's something that I enjoy, I don't think I'll ever stop. It's always on to the next business. How can I help or, generate revenue in a different industry? So it's a constant thing.
On that topic, could you kind of tell us how you started down the business path and explain a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, so it started actually very simply in middle school when they banned candy. They at one point they banned candy from all of middle school, and I figured out a way to say, hey, you know what? Let me go buy bulk candy at the store and resell it. And it all started there, and that was really fun. I actually had a couple of my friends that were employed with me, but they ended up turning on me because they didn't want to. They wanted profit sharing. They thought they should split the business with me, but it started there. And then in high school, I got a chance to start my own music group with some friends, so that was interesting. And then in college, I studied business, but living in the New York tri-state area, I was able to get internships, which are super valuable, and I highly suggest that any student that is interested in learning, go work for free. Go, if you want to learn how to do that business and you want to be a part of it, offer your services for free, especially when you're young and you don't have a ton of bills, you don't have kids. I took advantage of that and got to do some really cool things and work with people because I was willing to work for free. I know a lot of people say, oh, don't ever do anything for free, but I think it's a way to get yourself into the door so that you can get the knowledge to then turn that into a paid position. So, yeah, that's kind of how I got started, was through middle school, and then college internships. Huge.
Could you actually explain some of the internships that you took, ones that really affected you?
Yeah, so I was interested in music. I didn't know I was until I was 18. I always enjoyed listening to it, but I never thought about the business side of it. So once I went to college, I was just flipping through an internship book of the different companies. I knew I liked music. I had no idea anything about it, but my first internship was at Interscope Records right there in New York, and I got to work in the music video department. So I got to learn to see how the record labels, they actually pay for and fund these huge music videos. They don't generate any money off of them, but they use them purely as promotional material to sell CDs at that time. So I got to learn how that industry worked. I also went right over to the A&R side, which is the side of the music industry that finds new acts, signs new talent, listens to the new music that's coming out, and actually signs those artists. So that was awesome. I parlayed that into another internship. I was using those connections, and before the internships would end, I would actually start setting up the next one, and I'd say, hey, I'd love to keep doing this or learn from a different department. What can I do next? And since I was a free employee, no one ever told me no. They just said, hey, well, we'd love to have your free labor. So that was really valuable, and I'd say my most valuable internship is with Sony. I got actually to work with Sony Red, which is their independent label. So that what they would do is they would sign different small labels from around the country and actually support those labels with funding and support. So those artists and acts weren't directly signed to the label. They were just funded by the label, and they operated independently. So that to me was the most important, because I got to see, people that started record labels right out of their garage receive funding from Sony to help them grow. So that was probably my most influential.
On the note of artistry and stuff like that, how has creativity in that been a part of what you do as a business person?
Yeah, so I love marketing, so I love figuring out ways to get customers' interest. So marketing and creativity go hand in hand. That's a really fun thing to do, is come up with campaigns and ways to engage customers, and then also being creative. I decided at one point it was really hard to find songwriters. Everyone wanted to charge. I had a producer who would make the tracks, and everyone wanted to charge to actually write the song. So I said, you know what, let me try writing the songs myself, and I actually found an interest in that. So I got to use my creative juices to help write the songs, help come up with the actual art. I see you have a Kanye West shirt on there. That's an example of promotional marketing material. So I got to go through the whole process of helping write the songs, design the cover art, come up with the marketing plan, and figure out a way to get customers to actually, pay.
So on top of working for free and getting your foot in the door with these big companies, you were also developing new skills at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. That was, there's nothing like actually working on something. You can read about it all day. You can think about it all day, but actually being in the mix is extremely valuable. And so I still to this day, if I want to learn something, I'll learn for free. I have bills of my own, but if I really want to know something, I'll go after that information without expecting anything in return. So you have to be willing to there's a sense of pride there. You're going to take some L's. It's going to be hard along the way, but you got to know that in the future, having that knowledge is so much more valuable than making, X amount of dollars up front. So you got to kind of go for the trade-off.
So on that kind of note, could you explain some of the difficulties you faced or some challenges you faced along your entire journey?
Yeah, so some of the difficulties that I face is just organization. Businesses have so many different functions, and staying organized is such a big piece. Keeping all of your receipts, filing your taxes properly, you're having your business registered in the correct state so that you're not being gouged by taxes. finding good employees to help you that are willing to help you in the beginning stages when you don't have a ton of money to pay. That was a big challenge in the beginning, and I actually had a lot of friends who said, hey, I want to learn music. I like to do this or that. I'd love to work for you. So those are some of the challenges. And then just competition. This world is filled with competition, so as good as you think your product is or whatever you're doing, you're going to have competitors coming out of nowhere. And in certain situations, I've dealt with, copycats where I came up with a certain idea, I was developing it, and somehow it was stolen, made better, and pushed off even bigger than I could have made it. So, there's always challenges, and then just day-to-day cash flow. When pursuing your own business, you have to also be able to live. So that's always been a struggle, is how much time do I put in growing my business versus I still need to be able to pay the bills as I'm growing. So those are some of the challenges. But yeah.
Have any of them been severe enough that you felt like quitting at some point?
Oh, yeah. I had a situation at the end of my college career with my first company where we were doing business with an artist and we didn't have a contract. And it was my fault because I trusted this person. I wanted to do business with them. I knew that being aligned with them would help grow my business. So I took that risk and I said, you know what, let's do this together. Let's build this thing up. My company actually was funding a lot of what we were doing. So we spent about 15 grand of investor money. And when it came time to actually sign the contract, that artist decided, you know what, I'm going to go with a big label. I'm going to go with someone more established versus a 22-year-old college student. Although you've already spent X amount of money on me, although we've already been successful, me and my lawyer think I'll be better off over here. So that was a huge L for me. It hurt me emotionally. It hurt me financially. And I actually decided, you know what, I'm gonna redo my entire business. I'm never doing anything without a contract anymore. Not that that was true, because I've done stuff without, but I had to make a stand that, I won't put myself out there in my company, because I had a lot of people that were banking on this artist being big and being aligned with us. And so that really hurt the trust with my employees, because the whole time they thought, oh, wow, we had no idea this person wasn't under contract. We would have never helped them. So that was a really tough one, and it actually turned me away from the music industry for a long time there. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one small mistake just can, kind of spiral out of control. Things like that.
Absolutely.
It's really important to kind of stay organized with stuff like that.
Oh yeah. You want to stay organized because you want to be rewarded for your hard work at the end of the day, and nothing's worse than coming out with nothing. I got the knowledge and experience, but it'd be nice to have some money out of that. So.
From some of those L's, though, I mean, we all know the lessons that we can build off of them. Could you explain to us some of your greatest achievements in business or in life? Anything else you'd like to mention?
Yeah. So I actually really enjoy becoming a teacher. I never thought I'd be a teacher. It doesn't have much to do with business, but I enjoy passing along the things that I've done and some of the ways that I can help onto younger people. So one of my biggest achievements is becoming an actual teacher while trying all these business things. The other thing that I'm really proud of is my most recent company, Battle Prep West. We are recognized by the entire Pac-12, so Oregon State, University of Oregon, UCLA. If you go to their websites, they actually recognize my company as one of the kind of players in the industry for recruiting. So that's really nice to go to Cal Berkeley's website, which is one of the top universities in the world, and see my company, in a bio of a player. So that's been awesome. And then actually in college, when I started my first company, I was certified by the college to give out internship credit. So instead of kids having to take a class, they got to work for my company and receive credit. And that was awesome to be recognized as an official business kind of right out of the gate. So those are some of my accomplishments along the way.
It's awesome to hear.
Yeah, teaching and business kind of go hand in hand. Mentorship especially has been super important for me. My teacher, when I was in 8th grade, saw me playing in the back of the orchestra, some Bach cello suites, really popular pieces. But, I had no technical facility in that. It was just me kind of fooling around with something I thought was cool. But it was the initial, her taking interest in me that piqued my interest in doing this as a serious thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
so you being kind of a mentor here at McCain now, what is that like?
It's awesome. This is an amazing group of students. I haven't lived in Salem ever, so I'm getting to see a whole new group of students from various backgrounds. I think we have over 32 languages here, so I'm still new to this area, but I'd like to continue to grow. Getting to know Mr. Adams and you guys, it's been nice. So I'd like to be involved more with these programs, but it's been amazing, and I love helping young people because I had lots of good mentors myself. One thing that I was really smart about was realizing I don't know everything, but these older people that have been through it, they do know what's going on, so I might as well soak up as much information from them as I can, so that I can make myself successful. I think a lot of young people think they know it all already. Maybe they don't want to listen, and that's probably the most foolish way to go about things, because just based on age alone, someone who's 45 is going to know way more about X, Y, and Z than I will, even if I'm the expert in that industry. So it's important to develop mentors and ask for help, because you'd be surprised. People will help you. You rarely get a no. If you ask for help, you're going to get a yes most of the time. So
Some guy who does taxidermy or something is gonna, they might not have a lot of people to share that kind of information with. So if you're really interested in that, or even trying to take the message of going through that process of taxidermy, you can learn something from that, even if it's in a metaphorical way, even if it's not literally just trying to do taxidermy.
absolutely. No, that's a great point. You'd be surprised. Also, from an ego perspective, people love passing along their knowledge. People love being asked, hey, how do you do what you do? They get pumped up over that. I'm excited just being on this podcast. I feel cool right now. So, you'd be surprised at how much help you can get just by asking. And you'd also be surprised at how many people are not asking for the help. You may think, I don't want to contact so-and-so, the CEO of this company, because they're probably too busy, but I bet you they have a few minutes for you if you asked. So.
I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen with something like this, you're going to say no.
Exactly. And that doesn't hurt that. It stings for a second, but beyond that.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of thrive off of no in a way. Like, if I'm being told no by somebody, I kind of want to do that thing even more.
Makes you want to pursue it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
On that note, if you could give like a piece of advice or a little tip of know-how or something to the students around here and anybody listening, what's that one piece of advice?
Learn the internet. You guys have an incredible opportunity. I know you hear it every day, but all of the world's information is on the internet. So spend your time learning about what you want to do in life. Read, reach out to people, get to know the different corners of the internet. It's not just social media. There's so many different parts. There's so much information on there, and there's customers all around the world 24 hours a day that are willing to purchase or support whatever you're doing. So I would, if I were you guys, if I was a young person, I would try to become a master of the internet. Learn how to build websites, learn how to develop apps, find out the different areas to get that information from. Use it for what it's used for. It's not just for entertainment. So that would be my biggest advice, is just, get to know the internet from a business perspective, not just a customer perspective. The other thing, advice that I would give young people is ask questions to adults. Reach out to different adults, talk to them, soak up as much knowledge as you can. Like I said, it's available and people want to help, so go for it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've been trying to do a little bit more of actually is usually when I eat, I try and, I would just put on a YouTube video or something just so I could have something to watch while I'm eating. And they used to just be like somebody playing video games or something like that. But one of the things I've been trying to implement a lot more is when I'm eating, trying to maximize the time that I'm using to eat to learn something also. So instead of watching video games, I watch some world-class musician give a master class to a student or something like that.
Nice.
Or even another podcast by somebody. Just have something intellectually stimulating instead of just consuming and watching something. And, really maximizing the time that I could be spent learning. It's just been something I've really been trying to do lately.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, any kind of takeaway advice for us specifically? Maybe those who are looking to go into business. You mentioned using the internet as a tool, but I think when it comes to business, how did you know that you wanted to go into? Like, what was that moment that clicked?
I think the moment that clicked for me was being able to take an idea and bring it to life. Something that you dream about or think of in your head, seeing it actually come to life is a really cool feeling, and seeing how much support you get from people you don't even know is a really amazing thing. I've had businesses that I've gotten going, and I've had people come in and offer support and want to help that would never even talk to me before, but all of a sudden they're like, hey, we love what you're doing. So I forgot the initial question, sorry.
Yeah, I probably did too. I'm rambling a little bit.
I know
that
takeaways or something.
it was when, any takeaways for business?
Yeah, you guys keep going. You're in America. You're in a very rare situation in which you can do literally anything you want and start a business out of anything you want. So I would take full advantage of that, even while you're working. So just because you have a 9 to 5, just because you're in college, just because you're doing this and that, continue chasing what you believe in and what you really want to do, because you never know, even if it's not something you're doing full time. For instance, with me, my side businesses now are just supplemental. I'm a full-time teacher. This is where my primary income comes from. But to keep myself excited about life, I'm continuing to pursue these business things that I enjoy that could someday pay off for me and really pay the bills. So I would say, with whatever you guys are doing, there's 24 hours in a day. There's plenty of time. Continue chasing whatever your dream is. I know it sounds cliche, but you shouldn't give up. There's no reason to ever get discouraged. Every single day is a brand new opportunity, and you're in a rare space. Being that it's 2020, being that technology is where it is, even the experts, even the older people don't know what's going to happen next. So you guys are kind of living and writing history as you go. So, 40 years ago, there was cookie cutter ways to do things. Now there is no template. So, try it.
Yeah.
Go out there and just figure out what works.
I hear stories about some of the most successful people, like only sleeping 3 hours a night or something, like making sacrifices like that so they could work on turning projects that they were working on into fruition and bringing those ideas and artistic projects into life. And I feel like you kind of have to make some sacrifices when you're going into business. How do you kind of weigh that?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's definitely going to be sacrifices, even with just your time alone. Figuring out ways to pour more time into your business. So I think it all depends on how bad you want it. How bad do you want whatever you're trying to do to be successful? And you'll find those times. Like I said, when you really think about a calendar day, being that it's 24 hours and you only need to sleep 6 to 8, you have a lot of time throughout your day to dedicate an hour to watching a master class, dedicating an hour to working on your business and researching. So there's always time to do stuff, even with what you have going on currently. So sacrifice for a reason. Make sure your sacrifices are for a reason, and they'll be worth it. It almost always is. Even if it doesn't blow up and become the next Apple, you're going to learn lessons along the way that are going to help you, maybe help your cousin who's starting a business. You'll develop knowledge even through your failures and successes. Like I said, I've taken some failures where I just wanted to give up. I lost a ton of money. What do I do next? Do I regret them now? I literally don't. It was money and time, but I have knowledge going forward to, be better going forward. So if I regretted them, I would truly say, oh, wow, I shouldn't have done that, but it happened for a reason, and I wouldn't be who I am today. So
I feel like when it comes to sacrificing time, it's really easy to dedicate a day or an hour or even 30 minutes to doing something. But what I personally struggle with is starting that. Finding the motivation to do something like that for 30 minutes every day. I get so burnt out on schoolwork, practicing tennis, all these other things. And so, trying to sit down and force myself to do 30 minutes, it can be intimidating when I do that. And how do you get motivation to do things like that?
Yeah, motivation is a whole industry in itself, getting people motivated, how to motivate yourself. There's tons of literature, tons of videos just on that small piece. And I struggle with that sometimes because I am busy in certain areas. I do have a full-time job, and it is easy to say, you know what, I already worked hard today. I've already done my day job. I don't need to, I'm just going to go to sleep tonight, or I'm just going to play video games. But in order to, you have to think about it being bigger than yourself. Some of my goals is to help support my mother. I want to pay for all her bills. I don't want to have her work anymore. So I try to use that like, I'm tired right now. I just got through coaching track. I just got through coaching football. I just got through teaching. But my goal is to help my mom, so I need to go that extra mile. So almost thinking of it outside of your own self can be a motivator, you know, whether it be your siblings, your parents, your grandparents. It's bigger than you. So you got to kind of, once you internalize that, it can help give you that little bit of boost.
I see that advice elsewhere too. I'm a little bit opposite of Adrian. I don't have much trouble starting something, but for me, the biggest issue is consistency. It's like, you know, you'll do something once here or once there, but keeping on a schedule or just picking a goal and, you know, doing it over and over
Sticking
again.
with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the trouble I see a lot of people run into, and it's the same advice that applies.
Right, yeah, and you shouldn't beat yourself up over it. You know, everyone has off days where they don't feel like doing anything, or everyone misses steps. You got to keep going, literally. The past is just the past. You can only do what you can do moving forward, and you know, trying to be consistent. So,
Yeah. How about doing things that you don't want to be doing? So like, I don't really want to do math homework. It's not my passion.
right.
So how do I as a student sit down and do something that I don't want to be doing or I don't have a passion for?
Right, great question. So, in particular, I wasn't a great math student either, and I wish someone would have helped me along the way. But my advice to someone, to you in particular, with that is, think about the end goal. Think about that small math assignment as practice for being disciplined and giving you that boost, overcoming, you know, that barrier of not wanting to do it. That's practice for your music career and something outside of that. It's bigger than just that math assignment. So that's how I describe school. I get a lot of kids that say, well, this isn't going to apply to my life. Why are we doing this? Why, you know, is this ever going to come up in the real world? Well, it's the skill of actually sitting down, doing something you don't want to do, learning what it is that you have to learn. That's the actual application that's going to move over into your passion. So that's what I would say. Think about your end goal and look at that as just a small step on the way to the end goal. You're not trying to be a mathematician, but you do want to be disciplined. So
It's more about the process and not
the
end
process, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's been awesome having you on here.
Yeah,
On a
thank you,
closing
guys.
note, is there anybody in your life you'd like to thank? Anybody you'd like to give special props to that you can safely say you're here today because of them?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my dad, Tim Kindell, who's actually an employee here at McKay, he's constantly pushing me every day, almost to a point of uncomfort, where he's challenging me to, hey, you're smart. Yeah, that's what your dad, you know, you can do this, do more. And so I thank him. I thank Mr. Adams for bringing me on here and helping all of the business students. We didn't have this opportunity when I was in high school. There was no business department or classes, so I think this is awesome that you guys are getting a chance to actually run a real business, learn about it, and you know, my mother as well for being the hardest worker I know, being the most consistent person. She has 4 kids. She's been working full time for the last 30 years, and she doesn't stop, and she works harder than I do, and I'm 20 years younger than her, so I look at her as someone like, you know, wow, if my mom can do this after 4 kids and all this, I could, you know, push myself a little harder. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's been awesome having you.
Yeah,
on
thanks,
here, man.
guys. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
All right. Catch you next time on the Scotscast.
Next time on the Scotscast.
We'll edit that out.